everybody, and welcome to another exciting, hair-raising, fun-filled episode of Radiorama, where as I show you how to work on mostly radios. And today we have a Zenith model M723 AM/FM radio. I'm not sure of the year. It's got to be probably post-63 because there's no civil defense markings on it, and it's definitely not before 1955. Zenith, the famous company known for their slogan, "The quality goes in before the name goes on." This set actually still works, even though it's got a pretty bad hum in it, meaning the filter capacitors are shot, so I'm not going to power it up again. I believe this is actually a true hot chassis set. There's a few features they've added to make sure that you cannot touch it. The knobs are, you can't fully take them off. I've actually started to disassemble it, that's why they're all wonky. You can pull the knobs off, and they've got retainers in them, so you can't, if the radio's in operation, you can't yank the knobs off and touch the shaft, because I'm assuming the shafts are probably got 120 volts on them. So I'm going to take it out of the cabinet. We're going to take a look at the guts. Okay, so here is the chassis. Zenith was one of the very last American manufacturers to insist on using direct wired chassis. All the other manufacturers by this point had gone on to use PC boards, and there was some reliability problems with those PC boards. You've got heat being generated by the tubes that are causing the phenolic plastic material to heat up and contract and shrink and whatever, and it would cause like traces to lift, sockets to loosen up, and you get all kinds of shorts. So even into the 70s, they were still using, even their television sets, individual modules that could be plugged and unplugged. So they were pretty big sticklers when it comes to reliability. And the fact that this set still kind of works, despite being all original, is a testament to that. Now, it looks like it was worked on, I can't read this. It looks like in maybe 1968 it was repaired at Bill's Radio and Appliance here in Alameda. And it says IF trans, $12.50, tax 81 cents, service $8.50, for a grand total of, I can't read that, it's 20-something dollars. People spent a lot of money on the radios back then. This wasn't a cheap radio when it was new. Looks like we have a decently sized speaker in here. Now, one thing I am going to do, it is kind of a boring generic white color. So what my goal is to actually tape all this off. We're going to leave the front exactly as is, and then we're going to paint the back body some sort of solid color, something to just give it a little more pizzazz, because right now it's a little kind of plain. In fact, I might even choose to do that now since I know the set still works. I think what I'll do maybe first is replace these electrolytics that you can see on the bottom here. If there's some oozing coming out of the bottom of that thing, that means the electrolytic is probably definitely on its way to shorting. There's three values in there. I'm guessing one of them's going to be a fairly high number here. Let's see, 80, 60, and 40. And the higher value one, 80, is square. It's interesting here, that marking on it. This is a Mitsubishi electrolytic. So I'm going to guess this is probably late 60s. Some of the American manufacturers were cutting costs a little bit by importing some Japanese components. It's unusual for Zenith. They were one of the last American holdouts. They made it all the way up until I believe about 2000. And they were bought by, I believe, LG, primarily because of all their patents, because Zenith was pretty instrumental in some of the early HD TV technologies. So obviously they wanted that patent information. So let me replace these three guys and see what the performance improvement is, and then we'll proceed with probably taping this guy off and doing some paint work. All right, so we got our new electrolytics installed. We got one here, one there, and another one crammed down there. Go ahead and plug it in, see if we have any improvement in performance. Let's see here. Yep, we got filament. I can see there's the replacement IF can. All right. It works, and it works well. So, like I said, I'm going to disconnect everything. Try to clean up the case a little bit. It's got a weird cloth front, so I really can't take over to the sink and do what I usually do, which is clean the crap out of it. So I'm going to have to clean it the best I can without getting it in the sink. Okay, so I've masked off this front, and we're ready to paint. Let's make sure everything is good and tight, especially around the areas you'll see. Cleaned everything up with rubbing alcohol. And what I'm also doing is I'm letting the spray paint kind of soak in hot water for about 5 minutes. That'll help it flow a lot better. And what I tend to do when I spray paint things is, well, I'll show you. I'll spray paint a little bit and then I'll put the phone down. I need to find a way to hold the camera so that when I paint, I don't have to do it one-handed. And there are obvious things out there. Actually, you know what? There is a thing I have. Let me go get it. Okay, I've never done this before, so bear with me. What I want to do is shake the crap out of the spray paint, especially since it's been sitting for about 6 months in the cabinet. I've already shook it for about a minute. I want to listen for the little steel ball bouncing up and down. What I'm going to do is just paint this with wide, broad strokes. You see I'm not stopping anywhere. And I tend to lay it on pretty thick too. If you stay anywhere too long, you'll get runs, which looks very unprofessional. And I'm not a painting professional by any means. I'm not trying to suggest that. Windy today. Hopefully you aren't getting that on the microphone. Don't be afraid to put a lot on. Oh, got a hair. Great. Alright, there we go. Someday I need a proper spray booth. Because the way I'm doing it now is kind of stupid. And let me get to the side here. And I want to get the back too. And also you want to do the bottom. I know a lot of people are like, well, no one's going to see the bottom, who cares? I care. And I'll try to mostly miss the label. Again, we're just doing this real quickly. And let me set the case back up right again, holding it from the inside. And we'll put a few more layers on it. Get this side one more time. All right. That's looking pretty good. Top is especially important. right. I got paint all over my hands. How lovely. Alright, well, I'm going to let that paint set for a few minutes and I'll go out there and investigate it. Sometimes I have to put several coats on, make sure it's all glossy. I need to replace these two caps here because I believe they are paper caps, but they're just fancy paper caps stuck in plastic containers. I could be wrong. Maybe I'll crack one of these open and see what's inside. Well, let's see what this is really made out of. If it's paper or plastic film. Jesus, it's hard. That did nothing. Alright, well, let me put it into the vise. I can torture the capacitor that way. Alright, get in there. Alright. Good Lord. That cap is very much... Alright, I think I succeeded in cracking it. Jesus Christ. Alright. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. Alright, well, it's actually plastic film. So I can leave the other one in there, that's fine. I guess I'll know next time when I see that style that I don't need to replace it. Okie dokie. Now what I need to do is clean the contacts here, this volume control as well as the band switch. And I'm going to flip it over and clean the tube sockets and their pins as well. Alright, so I cleaned up the chassis. And what I also need to do is lubricate the tuning condenser bearings. There's one in the front here. And there's one in the back. And then there's a little pulley thing over here. I think that goes to my slug tuning. Yeah, so I need to lubricate a few more things so that everything moves real nice and easily. Yep, that's doing good. It feels nice and smooth. Let's go take a look at that paint job, see how it's looking. It's hard to tell with the light, but it does look real good. It's completely smooth and glossy. Got a little bit of a run on the right side, but I'm going to buff that out. It's not a problem. Alright, so I feel pretty good about that. I can leave this alone. Alright. Now the last thing I need to do electronically is replace this. This is the across the line cap. That is nowhere near the right kind of capacitor to use. We're going to use an X2 Y2 across the line cap rated at 250 volts AC and I believe 2 kilovolts DC. Then I need to replace this selenium rectifier, also known as samillium rectifier, with this modern diode and the compensating resistor. It's a 47 ohm resistor. Give or take a few ohms, it doesn't really matter that much. But what we want to do is replicate that, which is, we had positive going into the compensating resistor. That goes to the, and I can never remember, it's the cathode or anode, but anyway, the stripedy end of the diode. Negative goes to the other end of the diode. The back of it, basically the negative part. And I'm looking here, and this is only like a 20-something ohm resistor. I wonder if I should just replace that with this and call it a day. Alright, so I know it's tiny, but there's the rectifier and its compensating resistor installed. Then I put the across the line cap on there. Now, if you put the diode in backwards, you'll know that you did something very wrong because stuff will self-emulate. So I'm ready to pull my hand off of the plug if this blows up. So here we go. It seems to not be blowing up, so that's a good sign. All right. Actually, have we got tube filament here? There we go. All right.
More injury or death. Appreciate that. Yeah. Hey,
all right, so we're firing on all cylinders, or in this case, tubes. It's barely even warm. That's good. It's doing its job then. Okie dokie. My next step is to add the oh so famous and controversial audio input feature. All right, so the first step of added an audio input feature is to determine where your radio audio comes in from. And dead giveaway is to look for these three legs on your volume control. This is very typical for an American set. You'll have three legs. It's the top of the pot, which is the incoming radio signal, the middle, and then the ground side. We don't care about the middle, we just want the outer edges. And I can tell by the fact that this resistor is going to chassis ground. That is my bottom of my pot. This is the top, which is the incoming radio feed signal. So what we'll need to do is add a switch wire here so that when the user decides they want to listen to their music rather than AM or FM, they can disconnect it temporarily. There'll be a little micro switch in the back here that someone can activate. This being a actual true hot chassis set, it is extremely critical that you use an isolation transformer that goes in front of the incoming audio signal, because there's a potential for you to shock somebody pretty nastily here, and we don't want that to happen. We want to remove that possibility entirely. At the same time, we want to make sure the audio is going to sound good, so we're going to make sure and run our right and left channels together so we get mono. Don't do just one side of the audio, like the right side, like some people do. Just won't capture everything that's in the song. Okay, so I've got the audio input device installed. This is our isolation transformer. This is at a weird angle. Anyway, we've got the audio running through the isolation transformer before it gets to the volume control. Then what I did is I tied a knot and the audio cable coming out the back. Here's our switch wire, which will turn our radio back off and on as far as the signal going to the volume pot. And I'm running a Bluetooth signal, where is it? Down there, through the volume control. This speaker is actually blown. I took this out of some other project and for some reason didn't throw it away, but it makes a good test speaker. So from an electrical point of view, this is done. I just need to wait for the stupid cabinet to cure with the paint, which is probably going to take at least 48 hours. That's assuming that the paint settles out nicely. I'm finding that a lot of more recent spray paint just isn't very good. It doesn't settle out as nicely. It's probably because it doesn't have as many nasty chemicals in it. But whatever. So that's it for this evening as far as what I can get done on this, because I've done everything I can do up until just installing it back in the cabinet. Alright, so I know it's not going to come out in the video, but the first couple of coats did not settle well. I want to get a nice glossy sheen. I've waited 4 days for this to cure, and so I'm going to go over with some more spray paint, and that'll be it. Hopefully I'll have a nice slick finish. Okay, well, it's been a few days since my second touch-up of the paint job, and I like this much better. It's much smoother. And I took the masking tape off, and it looks like there's no runs into the white, so it looks nice and crisp. The idea is I want the impression that it came from the factory this way, and a kind of a nice two-tone job. Looks pretty believable. Better than if I had painted the whole thing blue, then it would have kind of looked bleh. Plus it would have been hard. I would have to mask all that off, so not interested in doing that. Anyway, time to put the guts back in. I let the guts actually run by themselves for a few days just to make sure that nothing was going to go wrong. So I've already got my burn-in test period done. So I'm going to stick this back together and see what happens. I can't walk out. Anyway, I can't play too much because then Google will catch that I'm playing music and not like that. Anyway, it sounds really good. I've got a Bluetooth running through it. And then there is a little switch in the back When you flip the switch, it reestablishes
At 8 p.m. for our next Ray Wellington
FM and AM operation.
for one song. You know, you just have to read. You just have to read and make sure what time.
Anyway, that's FM. This is AM.
Advertising has become prevalent. Really more. And insights on what's happening now. Straight business with Eric Bishop.
Out of 8.
Dave Schoenfield talking on the podcast the other day that
To talk with you.
decided voluntarily, guided by God.
Anyway, that's pretty good radios. You know, if you just want a good old kitchen radio, you know, listen to news on FM or whatever, you could do that same thing with this guy. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching as usual. I think this one turned out pretty good. It's got a pretty good snazzy new paint job that makes it a little less boring. And I think this will make someone very happy. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Until the next time a radio comes across my workbench, I'll see you guys next time. Adios.